بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وهدى وتقا ورشادا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن نفس لا تشبع ومن دعوة لا يستجاب لها. نعوذ بك اللهم من هؤلاء الأربعة. أما بعد، حياكم الله جميعا في درس من دروس تفسير سورة البقرة. And today بإذن الله تعالى we're only going to be doing one ayah. This ayah is long and subhanallah it required a lot of preparation, a lot of referencing back to the books of tafsir, and let's hope inshallah we are able to understand this ayah in the best way بإذن الله تعالى. وهذه الآية يقول الله عز وجل فيها: وإذ قلتم يا موسى لن نصبر على طعام واحد فادع لنا ربك يخرج لنا مما تنبت الأرض من بقلها وقثائها وفومها وعدسها وبصلها قال أتستبدلون الذي هو أدنى بالذي هو خير اهبطوا مصرا فإن لكم ما سألتم وضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة وباءوا بغضب من الله ذلك بأنهم كانوا يكفرون بآيات الله ويقتلون النبيين بغير الحق ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون. In the siyaq, we all know that this is the Jews of Medina. They are being addressed with these ayahs, and they are being addressed with compassion because they are being called towards being called towards Islam, towards the acceptance of the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in this siyaq, there is compassion. There is Allah is warning them against replicating or imitating their ancestors, and there is also recounting and reminder of the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon them. So all of the factors that are a characteristic of this context are those that help them, that would encourage them to accept the message and the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now they are being reminded of what their ancestors did and how it ended up for them, and they should not fall into what their ancestors fell into. So Allah says, وَإِذْ قُلْتُمْ, and when you said. And this question has been mentioned and been asked a lot of times previously. وَإِذْ قُلْتُمْ, why is the fi'l here being attributed to the Yahud of the Medina, even though they are not the ones who said what has been quoted here to Musa alayhi salam? So how is it being attributed to them? Hi Ikhwan. وَإِذْ قُلْتُمْ, when you said, even though the Jews in Medina were not there at the time of Musa alayhi salam, how is it being attributed to them? I think we have addressed this question a number of times. Na'am, Ahmed?
It's like since it's like their forefathers, it applies the same way to them. So
ممتاز. And it's because some of the af'al, they are like, or the af'al generally speaking, in particular when it is when the context requires, or when the purpose, the objective is to remind them of the favors, then the af'al are attributed to the nation as a whole, and even though there would be people from that nation who were not involved in that particular action, but when you're addressing a nation, you attribute the fi'l to them, to every one of them, especially for purposes and objectives like recounting the favors and or warning them against doing what their forefathers did, etc. وَإِذْ قُلْتُمْ يَا مُوسَى لَن نَصْبِرَ عَلَى طَعَامٍ واحد. We will not endure and tolerate the same meal. على طعام واحد. What was their طعام? What was the طعام of Bani Israel which they are complaining against? What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
منة وسلوى.
المن والسلوى. طيب المن والسلوى. This was the طعام. طيب how many are these المن والسلوى? One or two?
I think two, because salwa is some kind of a bird, but I don't remember.
Alman is very difficult. They said there's something like honey. If you go back to the Old Testament, مثلا, to their sources, they say that it's something that forms on trees, and it's whitish in color, and they use it to make bread or something. And if they eat it raw, it tastes sweet, and they used to make bread out of it. There are a lot of different opinions with regards to what exactly or how exactly man was. So both the man used to form on trees, whitish in color, and the salwa was the bird, the quail bird, and which was easily available to them. So this is Allahu A'lam how how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to feed them al-man wa salwa. Now these are two. Al-man wa salwa, they are two foods. طيب. And here it says لن نصبر على طعام واحد. كيف يعني؟ Man wa salwa are two, and here it says طعام واحد. So what is meant by واحد here then?
Perhaps it means the same category of food.
أحسنت, يعني the same category of food, or it means يعني على طعام واحد, يعني the same food every day, the same way. It's يعني we are getting it the same way على نهج واحد مثلا. Okay, and the same way, or يعني it is the same food. Generally speaking, the same food. يعني they are referring to al-man wa salwa as one category, and they're saying this is the same food every day. Like there might be 2-3 types of foods on your table, but you would say every day I'm supposed to have the same food. مثلا every day I serve to you 3 types of foods, okay, and they are the same types every day. It is correct to say in English that am I supposed to eat the same food every day, even though there are 3 types of food, but they are being referred to as one category. عرفتم يا إخوان؟ على طعام واحد يعني المن والسلوى, both of them. فادع لنا ربك, then pray to Allah for us. فادع لنا ربك يخرج لنا مما تنبت الأرض. طيب, what is the إعراب of يخرج? إعراب of يخرج. طبعا it's a فعل.
Yes.
So what is it? It's يعني حكم إعرابي.
I think it's a fill in the position of all the of ud'u.
Sorry, in the position of?
The مفعول به of ud'u.
فادع لنا ربك. لا. طبعا فعل cannot be مفعول. You mean like what دعاء should be? يعني مقول القول, just like حكاية يعني. No, this is not what it is. فادع لنا ربك يخرج. First of all, is it مرفوع, منصوب, or مجزوم?
It's مجزوم.
مجزوم. And why is it مجزوم?
Is it وقوع الفعل جواب للطلب؟
أيوة, ممتاز, الله يفتح عليك, ما شاء الله. وقوع الفعل جوابا للطلب. Where is the طلب here? Where is the طلب? ادعو is the طلب. This is the amr, and the جواب الأمر is يخرج. يعني what will be the result of that dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, يعني what is grown on earth, طيب, or by the earth. طيب, فادع لنا ربك يخرج. What is the باب of يخرج in صرف. What is this ماضي? Now I can ask
أخرج.
أخرج يخرج. طيب أخرج يخرج. What is the difference between خرج يخرج and أخرج يخرج?
The first one is لازم, the second one is متعدي.
أحسنت الله يبارك فيك. So this is from the معاني of أخرج يخرج. Remember we said from the معاني of أفعل يفعل is تعدية. And تعدية means that it makes the لازم a متعدي. So خرج to go out, أخرج to cause something or someone to go out. طيب يخرج لنا مما تنبت الأرض, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings forth for us what the earth produces. من بقلها. طبعا يا إخوان, what are the بقول or بقل? What is بقل يا إخوان? What are the بقول?
Herbs.
أحسنت, herbs. And that's why the بقال, you must have heard of al-Baqarah, right? This Baqarah is called Baqarah because he's supposed to sell the بقول. So Baqal and Baqala, and that's why the mini market that we go to, it's called Baqala because it's supposed to sell the herbs, but then later on it became it started being used for the mini market in which everything is sold. So that's how it is. من بقلها وقثائها. What is قثاء?
Cucumbers.
أحسنت الله يبارك. وقثائها وفومها. In fum there are two أقوال. Some have said that it's khubz, others have said it is thum, يعني garlic. And the correct pronunciation for garlic is thum and not thawm. Some of them say thawm. That's incorrect. The correct pronunciation is thum. And they say that in Arabic there are many words in which the fa is replaced with the tha. Yani this is common in Arabic in different dialects that they replace the fa with tha. So for example, there is a food that is called maghafir. Some call it maghathir. So the fa and the tha, their articulation points, because they're close, the Arabs many a time replace one with the other. So wafumiha ay wathumiha. طيب وثومها يعني it's garlic. وفومها يعني it's garlic. وعدسها. عدس is easy. What is عدس? Lentils, عدس. وبصلها, and basal is also easy. Onions. طيب يخرج لنا مما تنبت الأرض من بقلها وقثائها وفومها وعدسها وبصلها. They ask for 5 things. Okay, which ones are better? To have these 5 or to have al-man was-salwa?
It depends.
طيب what does the Quran say? طيب
ما أدري.
القرآن says قال أتستبدلون الذي هو أدنى بالذي هو خير. So Musa عليه السلام says that al-man was-salwa is better. يعني better in terms of perhaps يعني its benefits as well as the ease with which it is acquired. يعني Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it available, accessible for you without any effort. While in order to grow بقلها وقثائها وفومها وعدسها وبصلها يحتاج إلى جهد. It needs lots of effort. طيب قال أتستبدلون الذي هو أدنى بالذي هو خير. طيب the question here is, did Musa alayhi salam did make dua for them? Did he make dua for them? يعني what do you understand from this context? You understand that he made a dua. طيب what is the dalil that you are يعني using to deduce this, that he did make a dua? from the context. There is, it
statement
is,
of Allah, ihbit.
sorry, اهبطوا مصرا. Okay, but see this question here, the question asked by Musa alayhi salam, is this a genuine question or it's a rhetorical question? It's to rebuke them and admonish them. أليس هذا استفهام التوبيخ؟ It's for توبيخ. It's to rebuke them. This is استفهام التوبيخ. See, استفهام is of different types. Sometimes it's a genuine question. Sometimes it's استفهام التوبيخ, يعني to rebuke someone. يعني are you out of your mind? مثلا تقول لأحد, يعني if you say to someone like this, are you out of your mind? It's not a genuine question. It's just to rebuke him, right? قال أتستبدلون الذي هو أدنى بالذي هو خير. So the ظاهر is يعني this, from this question apparently it seems that Musa alayhi salam did not make a dua, else he wouldn't have done this inkar and this he wouldn't have condemned the Bani Israel for asking this, because if he knows that something is harmful for them, he wouldn't make a dua for it. However, okay, and then ihbitu misran, this is Allahu a'lam from the statement of Musa alayhi salam. ihbitu misran, this is from the statement of Musa alayhi salam, yani as if he's saying that, okay, we'll come to the meaning of ihbitu misran, but before we okay, first let's discuss the meaning, and then we'll discuss what how it is, or what does Musa alayhi salam mean by ihbitu misran fa inna lakum ma sa'altum. طيب, so what is the meaning of habata yahbitu? What is hubut? Habata yahbitu, to descend. Mumtaz. And what is the difference between descending, between hubut and nuzul?
Hubut is descending in a despicable manner, while nuzul is descending with honor.
Okay, some have said, Akhi Mustafa, that hubut is when you descend to settle down in some place. This is hubut, when descending is accompanied with settling down, while nuzul is yani generic, it could be temporary as well. So ihbitu misran, yani settle down in any village, but in any village, or the Misr, that is Egypt.
Any village.
طيب, how do you know any village? كيف عرفت؟
Because of common noun, maybe.
أحسنتم, because of the common noun. اهبطوا مصر. It's nakira, because it's a nakira. اهبطوا مصر, يعني any village or any city. اهبطوا مصر, اهبطوا أي مصر فإن لكم ما سألتم. You can get this in any city. You can go to any city and get this, and this is not something you would ask يعني from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to replace al-man wa salwa. Al-man wa salwa is a greater favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب, this is what is Allahu a'lam, the meaning of ihbitu misran. Some have said, however, that Misr here refers to Egypt. Misr here refers to Egypt. طيب, the asl is that if it refer to Egypt, then yani can it be a nakira if it refers to Egypt? I mean, can it have a tanween if it refers to Egypt, the country? Can it have a tanween?
I don't think so. I think
You think what, ya akhi?
I think Misra has a ma'rifa attached to it.
If it referred to the Egypt, the asl is that it would be without tanween, like Misra in other places in the Quran. That is because it is the name of a place, and places in Arabic are feminine in gender. And we know that the name of anything that is feminine, a proper noun for anything that is feminine, is always mamnu' min as-sarf. Like Jahannam. Jahannam is a name, a proper noun for an-nar. An-nar, because it is feminine in Arabic, that's why Jahannam is always mamnu' min as-sarf in the Quran. Likewise, if you have some name that doesn't even have ta marbuta, مثلا Zainab, it's still يعني even without the ta marbuta, it will be mamnu min as-sarf because it is a proper noun for a feminine يعني for a human that is يعني feminine in gender, because its gender is feminine. So that's why the asl is that Misr would not have a tanween. However, some have said that even if it refers to Egypt, it can still have tanween, because we discussed, we have mentioned once how some nouns, even though they are for something for feminine gender, they still have tanween. Like Hind. Why does Hindun have a tanween? Why does Nuhun have a tanween? Why does Lutun have a tanween? According to the rule, they should be يعني ممنوع من الصرف. But Hind, Lut, Nuh, Hud, يلا Hud, let's say he's an Arab, but Nuh wasn't an Arab, Lut isn't an Arab. Why do their names have tanween? Because if a name in Arabic, if a noun in Arabic is made up of 3 letters with the middle letter having a sukoon, then it will have tanween. That's why Hindun, even though despite it being a name for a feminine, for the feminine gender, despite this, it still can have tanween because it is made up of 3 letters with the middle letter being a sakin letter. So likewise, they say that Misr, even if it refers here to Egypt, it can have a tanween. Right. But the question is, were the Banu, once the Banu Israel were saved from Fir'aun, did they go back to Misr? Now, because the tanween, we cannot look at the tanween now because of the second qawl, because of the second opinion, we cannot look at the tanween to judge whether Misr here refers to any city or it refers to Egypt in particular. Now, because we cannot judge through the tanween, we need to look to other evidences. So the other evidences that we are looking into, the first question we are asking is that did the Banu Israel go back to Egypt after they were saved from Fir'aun, or were they supposed to go somewhere else?
They were supposed to go somewhere else. They were supposed to go to the city and conquer.
Ahsan, they were supposed to go to the city and conquer. ادخلوا الأرض المقدسة التي كتب الله لكم, right? And they were supposed to enter the Holy Land, right? But since they refused to enter the city and conquer the city and fight the Jababira, they were Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them lose the way for 40 years. So they aren't for 40 years they're not going back to Egypt. After that, Yusha bin Nun took them into the city, and he led the fight against the Jababira, and they conquered it. طيب. So here they are not going into Misr any time close to اهبطوا مصرا فإن لكم ما سألتم. طيب. But the others say that, okay, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we took out Fir'aun فأخرجناهم من جنات وعيون. We took them out, we expelled the Fir'aun and his nation from Jannat, from gardens, وعيون, springs, وكنوز ومقام كريم, and treasures and noble places, ومقام كريم, ونعمة كانوا فيها فاكهين, كذلك وأورثناها بني إسرائيل. And this is how we made Banu Israel the inheritors of أورثناها of that, Allahu A'lam, of that land. كذلك وأورثناها. Now the question is that if they are made inheritors of it, then aren't they supposed to enter it and live there? معذرة. فأخرجناهم من جنات وعيون وكنوز ومقام كريم كذلك وأورثناها بني إسرائيل. Without ونعمة كانوا فيها فاكهين, it's in دخان. وزروع ومقام كريم ونعمة كانوا فيها فاكهين كذلك وأورثناها قوما آخرين. So in الشعراء, وكنوز ومقام كريم وكذلك وأورثناها بني إسرائيل. So they say they're supposed to live there. So they say that some of them might have lived in Bani Israel. Some of the Bani Israel might have lived in Egypt, they might have moved to Egypt. While others say that كذلك وأورثناها بني إسرائيل, here it refers to their wealth, the wealth of Fir'aun and his people. And the land, يعني, they did not go back to the land. They were given the wealth of Fir'aun and his people, and this is what the ha in أورثناها is referring to, and they did not go back to Egypt. So على كل حال, both the aqwal, they seem to have يعني evidences, their evidences, but it seems more likely that here مصرا means يعني any village. اهبطوا مصرا فإن لكم ما سألتم. والله أعلم. Because in particular, because يعني the Banu Israel, they were supposed to go to the al-Ard al-Muqaddasa and settle down over there. So يعني some of them going back to Egypt, living there, يعني it doesn't seem likely. والله أعلم. طيب, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة وباءوا بغضب من الله. ضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة, يعني Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were stricken with disgrace, and maskana is faqa or poverty. طيب, here he has translated it has misery, which is also one of the aqwal, but just generally speaking, يعني, so that you could follow us with the ayah وَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, and they returned with the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب, now going into the details of this sentence, وَضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الذِّلَّةِ, why was the word ضُرِبَتْ used? Why not مثلا جُعِلَتْ لَهُمُ الذِّلَّةُ وَالْمَسْكَنَةُ? What is the significance of using ضُرِبَتْ? وضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة. ضرب يضرب is used, and we have to think of the things with which ضرب يضرب is used. One of the things for which we use the word ضرب يضرب is when we pitch a tent. Like when you pitch a tent. So ضرب القبة مثلا وضرب الخيمة, it's when you pitch a tent. That is one usage of ضرب. Another usage of ضرب is مثلا when you يعني stick the mud الطين to the wall. So مثلا يقال يعني ضرب الطين بالجدار. He يعني pasted the mud to the wall. طيب, وضرب الطين بالجدار مثلا. Now these are two things with which يعني either of these two is the one that is being used here. يعني either it is what is intended is to draw a resemblance between zillah and the tent, or it is intended to draw a resemblance between zillah and the teen, which is mud, طيب, which you يعني paste on on bricks in order to يعني stick them together. If it is meant to يعني draw a resemblance between dhillah and qubba, then in what aspect was this dhillah similar to a qubba, to a tent? And if we say that ضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الذِّلَّةِ, Allah means that, or the Quran says that just like when you pitch a tent, that's how the dhillah came over them and was put over them, disgrace. So in what aspect are we, what is the, from what angle are we drawing this resemblance? And how does the dhillah resemble the qubba, the tent?
That they were covered completely in disgrace.
Mumtaz. In terms of the dhillah encompassing these people, that is Bani Israel, and covering them from and surrounding them from all sides, And if we say that it is a resemblance with the teen, then what is the secret behind it, or what is and from what angle is it being made to resemble the teen, the clay? What and how does the dhillah resemble clay? Just like you said, I pasted the mud or the clay on the wall, مثلا. So from what aspect is, or in what terms does the dhillah resemble clay?
Perhaps it became part and parcel of them.
ممتاز. if it is being if it resembles the dhillah and clay is being the one that is being drawn here, then it refers to al-iltisaq. It stuck to them. This dhillah became a part and parcel of them. It would stick to them their whole lives and for forever. The dhillah, this disgrace and maskana, would stick to these people, Jews, forever. طيب. So it's either of the two. It's either a tent, ضربت, just like when you pitch a tent, so the dhillah has covered them from all sides, or it's like the teen that is, that sticks to them. ضربت عليهم الذلة, it has stuck, it will stick to them their whole lives. ضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة. طبعا الذلة, we know the meaning of dhillah, disgrace. لكن ما هي المسكنة? What is مسكنة? What is the meaning of maskana? ما معنى المسكنة؟ But what is the famous meaning of maskana?
Is it miskin?
It's from miskin. It's the masdar of for miskin. مثلا مسكن يمسكن مسكنة, or تمسكن يتمسكن تمسكنا مثلا. So they take it from miskin. However, they say that the meme here is زائدة. Meme here is زائدة. It's not. If you want to look up maskana in the dictionaries, what will you be? What asl, what root will you be searching in?
Seen kaf noon.
Seen kaf noon, ahsant. That's where you'll find maskana and miskin, because they say the meme here is an additional letter. طيب, now seen kaf noon, sakana yaskunu, it refers to it is the opposite of haraka. Sukun is the opposite of haraka, of movement. طيب, sukun, it's when things come to a standstill, when they become still. Right. So how or why is miskin, a person who is poor, why is he called miskin? Or why have they derived the word from sin kaf noon for a miskin?
Perhaps because he doesn't have a job, so usually
it doesn't work.
doesn't work, so he's usually
unemployed.
very calm, and he's unemployed, and the movement is not there.
Some have said, I found this in some of the dictionaries. They said that a miskin is called miskin because faqr and poverty reduces and decreases his haraka, because he becomes weak. So this is what they have said, and Allahu A'lam, this might be the case, because miskin is mif'il, and mif'il is sigha mubalagha, right? Sigha mubalagha, it's a superlative noun for which is used for a fa'il, for a person who performs the fa'il. And so the fi'l of sukun or sakana or this must be attributed to the person himself. So they say that, and because of poverty, he does not move too much. He comes to a sukun, not calm, and he becomes calm in the sense that he cannot move much because of weakness. So that's why they say he's called a miskin. Wal maskanatu. طيب. Which one is more يعني poor? Is it the miskin or is it the faqir?
Fakir.
The faqir. Okay. And what do you have any dalil for this?
When Khidr alayhi salam was telling Musa that as for the sheep belongs to some masakin.
وأما السفينة فكانت لمساكين. أحسنت. وأما السفينة فكانت لمساكين يعملون في البحر. طيب. فأما السفينة فكانت لمساكين يعملون في البحر. So they have عمل. They have يعني they work in the sea. They own a boat, but they're still masakin. So they say miskin is someone who does have some wealth, but he cannot fulfill his needs. And faqir is the one who does not have any wealth, or he's more in need than a miskin. طيب. And they also refer to the ayah إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها. So the most needy ones were mentioned first, الفقراء, then masakin, then عاملين عليها. The further, or as we move forward, the types that are being mentioned who are eligible to accept zakah, they decrease in the need, in their need of zakah, because fuqara, this shows us that the priority is the fuqara because they are the most need. So they were mentioned first, and then the masakin because they are lesser in need, so they were mentioned second. So they also use this verse to derive that the faqir is more needy than the miskin. So فأما السفينة فكانت لمساكين في البحر يعملون في البحر, this verse, and also the verse of the zakah of the 8 types, مصارف الزكاة, of the 8 types of people who are eligible to accept zakah. والمسكنة. طيب. وضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة. Are the Jews poor people? They are disgraceful. نعم. They are always being hated. نعم. They're still hated. نعم. But are they poor people?
No.
Currently, if you look at them, even at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were some Jews who generally they had good money. مثلا they are spending against the Prophet ﷺ. They're living in forts. طيب. And building a fort requires a lot of money. You can still see the fort of Ka'b ibn al-Ashraf in Medina. It still has its there are still remnants of that fort in Medina. You can visit that place. So, and it requires a lot of money because fort is one solid structure that you are building, and it certainly requires a lot of money. So, and then he had so many rooms in his fort. We went there like a couple of weeks ago perhaps, and there were so many rooms there that are made in that fort, and there were perhaps more than one floor. So that means that a lot of people are also living, that they have workers and servants who serve them. So this means that Jews had a lot of money. So how would you, this is one example from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Yes, there must have been times over the course of the history where Jews were poor people, and we need to look into history. But let's say if the Jews generally have been wealthy people, let's just say this, then how would you reconcile between this ayah and the fact that Jews over the course of history, there have been a lot of times that they had a lot of money? How would you reconcile between this ayah and what seems to be the reality?
Perhaps it could be said that their wealth is of no benefit, real benefit for them.
أحسنت ممتاز.
Since
Even though they have wealth, but it is not of benefit to them, they do not find satisfaction and contentment in it. Their hearts are still like that of a faqir and miskin. Even though they might have wealth in their hands, but their hearts and their minds are still that of a faqir and miskin, which is why you would find the Yahudi yani, very miserly. You would find him yani, very eager to increase his wealth. The capitalists mostly yani, over the last 50, 60 years in the US, the real wealthy Jews that are over there, yani, they are just looking, yani, they are always eager to increase their wealth. So that is the thinking and the mind of a faqir and miskin who yani, who's never content with what who is not content with what he has, and he wants to increase his wealth. As for faqir and miskin, it is understandable to be eager to earn more money because he needs to fulfill his needs. But what about this Jew? Why is he so eager to increase his wealth? This is how, yani, Allahu A'lam, this is what is meant here by al-maskana. If we say that the Jews have been throughout the course of history, yani, for large periods of time, they have been wealthy. However, if the case is that the Jews mostly during the history they have been poor, and this is yani, one period of time in which they have been yani, given money by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we can say that this is an exception. But what seems to be the case that they have been having yani, wealth during yani, over the course of history. That's why perhaps maskana here means that they do not benefit from what they have, and they don't feel content, they don't have any satisfaction, and they are always eager to increase their wealth, and they are shahih, they are very miserly and stingy when it comes to spending. And ya ikhwan, also that they act like a miskin, they pretend to be a miskin. And you would find the Jews always yani, pretending to be the victims. We have been oppressed. Oh, we have always been oppressed. We have been this and that. We have been the victims of oppression. We have been subject to this and that. Always pretending to be the victims and the mazlumin and the ones oppressed. So in their hearts they are still masakin. طيب وضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة. And also in terms of the khawf that they have, yani they always pretend to be like this because they are always yani, afraid and in fear of yani, being subject to yani, punishment from other nations. So they're always in the state of fear that we'll be attacked, we'll be this and that. Yani, when they have made this country in the Middle East, they want to be the most powerful militarily in the Middle East because they're always in this constant state of fear. And we know that the US, I guess, I just read a few days back that they do not sell, they always give Israel an advantage when it comes to selling them the aircrafts and when it comes to selling them the weapons. They always, the Israelis, they can modify it according to their needs, and when they sell it to Muslims, it's a level below what is sold to Israel because they want to maintain this military advantage in this area of the Middle East. So they are in a constant state of fear. وَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. What is the meaning of باء يبوء? باء باء يبوء. ما معنى باء يبوء؟ وباءوا بغضب من الله. باء يبوء has a few meanings, but Allahu A'lam, here it means that باء means رجع. رجع يعني to return. And ba'a yabu'u, they say that it, and even though it means raja'a, but it's not used the way raja'a is used. Raja'a is generic, and raja'a, any type of return. But they say ba'a yabu'u is used when, and it has a negative connotation to it. So ba'a yabu'u is used for things that are negative, that are evil. So ba'a yabu'u ba'a bi ghadabin min Allah, and this is only used for shar. So in this context, it is suitable to use ba'a yabu'u, which is specific to shar, which is specific to evil. وَرَجَعُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, they صاروا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, they returned back with the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his anger and his wrath. طيب. Here, غضب, is it nakira or is it ma'rifah? غضب is nakira or ma'rifah?
Nakira.
It's nakira. طيب. Why has it been made nakira here? Why? مثلا, what is the difference between وباء بغضب الله and وباء بغضب من الله? وباء بغضب من الله. غضب, sometimes nakira يا إخوان is used for the objective of tafkhim. Tafkhim, when something is used as a nakira, it is to enlarge and highlighted or for ta'zim, to show that it is something that of a great something that is great. Something that is great in stature مثلا, or something that is great in its evilness مثلا, or something that is great in amount or in its rank or in whatever. طيب, للتفخيم والتعظيم. So it's a غضب here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is emphasizing on this غضب, and the tankir, the fact that غضب is nakira, it makes it is to show that it is something that is very big. It's something that is that must not be taken lightly. It's something that is huge. طيب, بغضب. And who is this غضب of, or who is the one whose wrath is being mentioned? It's a غضب from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not any غضب, بغضب. طيب, another way this is a more intense is because when a nakira is used, you are eager to know more about it. Like if I use a ma'rifah, خلاص, everyone knows what we're talking about, let's move on. But when I use a nakira, I'm eager to know more about it. I'm waiting for the wasf, I'm waiting for the adjective. I want to know more about this nakira. So بغضب, what sort of a غضب is it? It's a غضب from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وباءوا بغضب من الله ذلك بأنهم كانوا يكفرون بآيات الله. That is because all of this that ضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة وباءوا بغضب من الله. Why? ذلك بأنهم, because they used to يكفرون بآيات الله, they would disbelieve in the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيَقْتُلُونَ النَّبِيِّينَ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ, and they used to kill the prophets unjustly. Like, is it possible, if you look at the ayah, does the ayah mean that sometimes killing the prophets is just as for a just reason? Is it possible? Does the ayah mean this? When we say بغير الحق, if this is in particular mentioned here, does it mean that sometimes the prophets are killed for a just reason?
No.
طيب, then what is the use of mentioning this qaid here, this extra bit بغير الحق?
it's to highlight the level of the injustice.
ممتاز. It's to highlight the injustice. أحسنتم. It's just to highlight and remind them that this is a despicable and atrocious act that they commit. Just to add, to emphasize on the fact that it is unjust and it is evil. طيب مثلا Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَمَنْ يَدْعُ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ لَا بُرْهَانَ لَهُ بِهِ. The one who calls upon and invokes a deity other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for which he has no dalil. Does it mean that it is possible that there is a deity whom you would call upon and invoke besides Allah and you would have a dalil for him? Is it possible that there is a deity besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is supposed to be invoked and called and we have a dalil to call upon him besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
No, it's not possible.
No, it's not possible, right? Then what is the use of this? This is to condemn them further. يعني for يعني more يعني emphatic condemnation of what they committed. Likewise, وَمَن يَدْعُ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ لَا بُرْهَانَ لَهُ بِهِ. And this is to condemn them that they are calling upon Allah upon someone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they have no burhan for it, they have no dalil for it. This is to يعني more emphatically condemn their actions. يقتلون النبيين بغير الحق. This is يا إخوان, this is called this يعني this sort of a qaid or this sort of a wasf or attribute. If it is mentioned in the texts, it's called, what is it called? Who can tell me? It's called يا إخوان وصف كاشف. وصف كاشف. يعني it tells you the reality, but it is just here to describe you the reality or what exactly happened. It's not here to tell you that there is a possibility of something any opposite to this being existent. Just like وَمَن يَدْعُ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ لَا بُرْهَانَ لَهُ بِهِ. This is just to describe the state of a person who calls upon and invokes someone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he never has a dalil. But this is not, it does not imply that there is a possibility of there being a deity besides Allah who can be invoked and called upon, and there is for whom we have a dalil. Likewise, وَيَقْتُلُونَ النَّبِيِّينَ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. This was extra bit of information here. This is wasfun kashifun. It describes for you the state and the reality of their action. It is not to imply that there is a possibility that some of the anbiya would be killed يعني justly. مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. طيب, this is called wasfun kashifun. And they say in the qaida, wasfun kashifun يعني كاشف عن الحقيقة. wasfun kashifun كاشف عن الحقيقة. A characteristic, an attribute, a description that uncovers. Kashif يعني the one that uncovers the reality, wasfun kashifun عن الحقيقة. And they say it for this, they say wasfun kashifun لا مفهوم له. What does it mean لا مفهوم له? لا مفهوم له means that you cannot take the opposite meaning. يعني if I say مثلا if I tell you that honor the good students, what is the opposite meaning? That do not honor the students who are not good. Honor the good students means that do not honor the bad students. If I say that give 10 riyals to Zaid, this means yani, do not give 10 riyals مثلا to anyone other than Zaid, because I have specified Zaid. مثلا if I say يعني حرمت عليكم مثلا أمهاتكم وبناتكم, معنى ذلك يعني the women other than أمهات and banat, they are not haram upon me. This is the meaning of mafhum. This is what we mean by mafhum. Mafhum means when the word mafhum is used, it refers to something that is called in usul al-fiqh mafhum al-mukhalafa. Mukhalafa يعني taking the opposite meaning. What you derive of the opposite meaning. Mafhum al-mukhalafa. So there is no mafhum al-mukhalafa for wasf kashif. if there is a characteristic or an attribute that is describing the reality, that is just describing the state in which, or the describing the action more finely, it is not to imply it's a wasf kashif, then there is no mafhum mukhalafa for it. You cannot take the opposite meaning from it. You cannot say that this ayah implies that there are some anbiya who were killed justly. لا. وصف كاشف لا مفهوم له. لا مفهوم له. طيب لا مفهوم له you cannot take the opposite meaning from it. You cannot take the opposite meaning from it. Another one of the amthila we gave was وَمَنْ يَدْعُ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ لَا بُرْهَانَ لَهُ بِهِ فَإِنَّمَا حِسَابُهُ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِ. طيب كذلك in Surat An-Nisa, when the women who are haram upon a person were mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَرَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّاتِي فِي حُجُورِكُم مِّن نِسَائِكُمُ اللَّاتِي دَخَلْتُم بِهِنَّ. Now there are 2-3 quyud mentioned here. وَرَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّاتِي the daughters of your wives. اللَّاتِي فِي حُجُورِكُم, the ones who are under your care, من نسائكم وربائكم اللاتي في حجوركم من نسائكم اللاتي دخلتم بهن, from the women whom you have entered upon, دخلتم بهن, you have engaged in relations with, someone who you have married and have engaged in relations with. Such a woman, if there is a daughter for her, you cannot marry that daughter of hers. طيب. Now the ulama say that في حجوركم under your care. They say this is a qaid that is not to be applied. It is mentioned here only to remind you that how can you think of marrying someone who is under your care just like your daughter? She's under your care. And which is why the ulama say that even if the daughter of your wife, even if she is not under your care, then you still cannot marry her. So what do they say? They say this qaid, that is fi hujurikum in Surah An-Nisa, fi hujurikum, under your care, this qaid, they say about it, they say the following. They say kharaja makhraj al-ghalib. Usually, mostly, this is how the case is. This is how the case is, that she is under your care. So kharaja makhraj al-ghalib fala mafhuma lahu. So wasfun kashif, there is no you cannot take opposite meaning from a wasf that is kashif, that describes the reality for you, and something that describes not the reality but the common occurrence, and how the common practices is that also you cannot take the opposite meaning from. You cannot take its opposite meaning. It doesn't mean that those daughters of your wives that are not under your care, you can marry them. لا ليس معنى هذا ليس معنى هذا. This is not the meaning intended. Rather في حجوركم here is intended to just remind them someone under your care who's usually under your care. How could you think of marrying her? طيب. So there are 2 قواعد that we have learned today. That وصف كاشف لا مفهوم له. مثلا الوصف الكاشف لا مفهوم له. You can, if you want to write the قاعدة, write it like this. الوصف الكاشف لا مفهوم له. Something that describes the reality, you cannot take the opposite meaning from it. Okay, this is how the case is. It's intended here just to describe the reality for some other purpose. Just for example, to remind you of something, or to make it something despicable for you when you think of it. And also the other qaida is that something ما خرج مخرج الغالب, that which describes the common practice, it also you cannot take the opposite meaning from it. فلا مفهوم له. ما خرج مخرج الغالب لا مفهوم له. طيب يا إخوان, I know it's difficult to understand it right now, but inshallah, if you try understanding it right now, just put a little bit of an effort. Inshallah, later on, when someone else will tell you the qaida, or we will discuss this qaida again, then your fahm and your understanding will be further strengthened bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. It's not necessary that you have understood it completely right now, but just write it down for now. Inshallah, in the future you will understand it bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. طيب ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون. There is one question that I couldn't find the answer to. If someone can think of something, مرحبا. That question is, ya ikhwan, that وَيَقْتُلُونَ النَّبِيِّينَ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. While in other places in Surah Al-Imran مثلا, it is with the tankir, with the nakira, بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ. But here it is بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ, with a ma'rifah. Now why is it ma'rifah here, and what does it imply, and what does it mean? Allahu a'lam. This is something I couldn't really find a convincing answer to. They have said بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. الأنبياء also نعم النبيين وأنبياء هنا النبيين and over there in Surah Al-Imran ويقتلون الأنبياء بغير حق. So they say بغير الحق. Now because it's معرفة, it is referring to some specific حق, بغير الحق الموجب قتلهم, بغير الحق الموجب قتلهم. They say that what it means here is that when they were killing the prophets, it was not because of some ta'wil, some false ta'wil or shubha. They knew that they are killing them unjustly, because it was not for al-haq. Al-haq here refers to the just causes of killing someone. بغير الحق, you can write this in Arabic first. بغير الحق الموجب قتل النفس. And what it means in English, it is not for the just cause which allows killing of someone. So they say that here it means that when they, it implies that when they were killing the prophets, they were certain that this is batil, and this is a dhulm, and this is udwan, this is transgressing the limits, but they still did it. And when we say بغير حق, generally unjustly. بغير حق, there is no way that there is any justification for the qatl. But why is there a difference between the Surah al-Baqarah and Surah al-Imran in this aspect? Allahu a'lam. Nothing. I couldn't find anything that was convincing. If you guys find anything, ya ikhwan and ya akhawat, مثلا, if you find anything that is that seems to be a good answer, why it is used here with al بغير الحق and over there in Surah al-Imran بغير حق, then please tell us and share it with us inshallah. طيب ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون. And all of these punishments were because they disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. عصوا, disobeyed Allah's commands, disobeyed Allah, disobeyed the prophets. عصوا, and عصى يعصي, it is a متعدي, and متعدي requires a مفعول به. صح ولا لا صح؟ متعدي requires a مفعول به, but there is no مفعول به mentioned here. So why is there no مفعول به mentioned here? To make it generic, to make it عام, generic. عصوا الله ورسله وعصوا مثلا, whatever they were supposed to obey, Allah, His messengers, they disobeyed every one of them. ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون وبما كانوا يعتدون, and because they used to violate and transgress the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب, also يقتلون النبيين ويقتلون الأنبياء, or there in Surah Al-Imran. What is the difference between the two, and why is it so? Allahu a'lam. I couldn't find anything that was convincing. One can keep reflecting over these two ayahs and ponder why was there a difference. But Allahu a'lam, nothing I know of right now. So if any one of you does know something, please do share it with us. جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.